Future historians are going to look back at the 2020 to 2024 era and come to one inescapable conclusion: that Americans of that era had incredibly short memories and were very easily distracted by nonsense. It has only taken us not even 3 years to completely forget what the real original point was of the pushback against 2020. How many of you out there have been following the grilling of Anthony Fauci? Nobody asked the right question. Nobody bothered to sit back, take a breath, and really make the right point. I'm sure a lot of you are scratching your heads going, didn't you see Matt Gaetz say this and that? I did. He was arguing about minutia. He was arguing about whether this guy was right or wrong about this, that, or the other. He didn't ask the right question. Now, what if I told you I could tie this in to how much we have forgotten about World War II? Pardon me. And believe it or not, I can even tie it in to the Patriot nurse and advice that she's given for years. Now, this might seem a bit of a stretch, these three things, but it's all going to boil down to one word. The Patriot nurse, for a long time, has talked about the importance of having weapons, using weapons, being trained with weapons, and the role that they play in your life. But Florida Maquis, what does that have to do with D-Day? What does that have to do with Anthony Fauci? What in the world? How could you possibly tie these all together? It's a battlefield of the mind. If you want the ability to see this truth, join us. Florida Maquis Patreon channel. $1 per month, even less if you sign up for an entire year, and fully refundable first 90 days. I guarantee probably right now there are people who are members of my channel who are already typing over at the Patreon channel going, Florida Maquis, I get it. I get it. I remember the lesson. I remember what you said. This is so clear to see. Why can't anyone see it? Let's start with 2 minutes and 30 seconds in. The preamble to the U.S. Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Now, here comes the real story, and it has to start with an analogy. Ladies, what would happen if one day you were walking down the street and all of a sudden, a much bigger person, perhaps a man, came up and grabbed you by the arms and tied you up and took you away somewhere? Wouldn't be a good day, would it? You'd have lots of questions. It would be wrong for them to do that, right? Now, what would be your first question? Stick with me. I know I have a lot of people confused. You see, the problem is that you just lost your liberty. Pay attention to that word. You just lost your liberty. And it doesn't matter the reasons why. You wouldn't say, what a nice surprise, would you? Well, wait a minute. What if the guy who did that took you over the window and said, you see right there, you see that place that I grabbed you and I tied you up and took you and brought you to this place? Well, look, where you were standing, a giant flaming piano fell from some work location above. And had I not kidnapped you, a giant piano would have crushed you. Now, you owe me. You owe me. You know what, besides, I've been watching you for a while, and I've seen on your Instagram and your Facebook and different platforms that you have a specific kind of guy that you like, and I'm that guy. So this should be a nice surprise for you. I'm a really good-looking, big, strong guy. I'm not some horrible fat person. This is a good day for you. See, if you had a weapon, it wouldn't matter what the guy looked like, right? Wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter if there was a giant flaming piano falling where you just so happened to be. You want your liberty. That's why it is a good idea to maintain some type of a ballistic weapon on your person to maintain your liberty. Now, what does this have to do with Anthony Fauci? What does this have to do with anything else? Think about this for 1 minute, critically. What they were debating on the House floor or in the committee room, whatever you want to call it, was whether or not the social distancing guidelines were truly effective or not. Whether or not the masking guidelines were just made up by Anthony Fauci. It didn't matter whether the masking and the distancing and all of that worked or it didn't work. It wasn't government's place to order us to do it. It could have worked fantastically. It could have worked wonderfully. Even if it had stopped COVID in the 15 days to slow the spread, let's say it had stopped right there, it was still wrong. It was still the wrong thing to do. Just like in our analogy, doesn't matter if you got saved from a piano. Doesn't matter if the guy's this super wonderful guy. He, like government, didn't have the right to take your liberty regardless of the intent. Regardless of the intent. Stay-at-home orders were wrong. It didn't matter if they were right about the masks. It didn't matter if they were right about the distancing or who made it up or whatever. It didn't matter. Now, this is the game government's playing. This is the game government's playing. They're trying to confuse you, saying, well, we issued guidelines. The guidelines were fine. What is the guideline? A suggestion. They compile information and they put it out and say, this is what we would do if we were you. Okay, that's fine. We will take that advice under advisement and then make our own decision. Ordering businesses to be closed under penalty of law was wrong. Even taking polls, saying, look, we have polled all these people and they agree about there being no groups of 10 or more or stay at home. Okay, fine, wonderful. Thank you for sharing the polling data. But the orders are wrong. Allowed is literally taking your liberty from you. Taking your liberty from you is not a nice surprise. I don't care if the guy was the perfect guy that you had ever imagined in your whole life about, the guy that you wanted to spend your life with. If he went about it this way, it would have been wildly inappropriate and wrong and showed evidence of the guy being a dangerous psychopath. Just like government. Now, these orders were wrong. That was the difference between Florida and the rest of the country. We put out a lot of suggestions, and for a short time, our governor, and he's even admitted this, made the mistake of going along with the 15 days because Trump and Pence were in office. And he didn't want to be seen as contradicting Donald Trump and his government. But after that 15 days, it was over. Now, some might say, okay, I get the idea. I get the idea of how you being personally armed provides for you being the autonomous authority in your life, regardless of the suggestions about safe practices in your life. I'm sure the Patriot nurse doesn't go walking through or waltzing through dangerous neighborhoods at 2 o'clock in the morning on weekends, even though she's armed. That's a good idea, but nobody's forcing her to not do that. She has personal authority and autonomy. Now, what about D-Day? What does this have to do with D-Day? We didn't go into Germany to stop the spread of socialism. We didn't go into Germany to stop the spread of communism. That is a big lie. That is a huge, enormous falsehood. We got involved in World War II because of Pearl Harbor. World War II had been going on in Europe since 1938, and we wanted nothing to do with it because it didn't affect us. When they decided to haul off and sucker punch us in the Pacific, we didn't have a choice. That now threatened our liberty. So, job one was to drive the Japanese all the way back to their homeland and then nuke it with 2 giant exclamation points and say, don't screw with us ever again. And oh, by the way, you are banned from having any kind of a military for half a century. Then we went into Europe and we drove them back into their homeland, back into Germany, and then we sliced up Germany like a piece of cheesecake. Like a piece of French cheesecake, actually. And we gave part of it to Britain. We gave part of it to France. We kept part of it. We gave them a quarter of it. But we took away their autonomy too. But we didn't give a rat's ass. We sided with the Russians, and they were communists. They threatened our liberty. That was the point. The point should be, Dr. Fauci, it doesn't matter what your opinion of the mask was, right or wrong, then or now. It doesn't matter what your opinion of social distancing was, then or now, or anything else. You and the government and your lackeys did not have the authority to order people to do things based on your opinion. Now, you ready for this moment? I'm going to reread the preamble to the Constitution as would be written by Anthony Fauci. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a perfect progressive union, enforce justice, enforce domestic tranquility, enforce the common defense, enforce the general welfare, and keep the blessings of liberty to the extent that they're convenient, but always leaving open the door for more enforcement, do establish this Constitution, blah, blah, blah. You see, ensuring tranquility is not enforcing it. Promoting the general welfare is not enforcing the general welfare. Securing the blessings of liberty is the idea of the Constitution. And that was the story, and why those of us here in Florida get it. The entire point of everything that was done in Florida was to secure the blessings of liberty. Were people going to make wrong decisions? Yes, they were. That's their right. Not everybody makes perfect decisions. She's not perfect. Not every gun owner is perfect. I'm for sure so far from perfect that I can't even see it. But I still have liberty. And I have the right to make my own mistakes. So does she. This is the idea. This is the idea of this country. This is what made America great, was this idea of liberty. And that's what ties these 3 stories together. Those people who were supposedly on our side, so to speak, who were grilling Anthony Fauci, didn't bother to ask the liberty question. When we left Europe, after we sliced up Germany and the war ended, we didn't give a rat's ass about communism or socialism. That wasn't the point. We secured the liberty of North America. That was our job. And that is why we have the Second Amendment, to secure our personal liberty. Period. That's the story. And that's the battlefield of the mind for today, 5 June. That nobody is seeing this, or nobody has the guts to talk about it who does, is evidence that we need to pick up this fight, this battlefield of the mind fight. You see, if you really want more evidence for this, and I'll leave with this. If you want to talk about socialism being bad, okay, we have socialist things going on in North America. Communism, okay, yeah, that's not a good thing. Do you know what they had in Japan? They had an emperor. They had an imperator. They had an emperor. Do you think we gave a rat's ass about how the Japanese people governed themselves? No. We didn't give a damn about how Germany governed themselves. Or England. We didn't, remember something, we didn't overthrow, pardon me, my voice, still. We didn't overthrow the king in the revolution, did we? We didn't overthrow the king in the revolution. We just got the king to leave us alone. We just got the king, you ready for this? To let us alone. Now do you get it? There was a king in France. There was a king and queen in Spain. There was a king in England. There was a pope on his throne in Italy. And America went its own way and didn't bother sticking its nose into those people's business. What the medical state, the medical tyranny state, whatever you call it, did was a bridge too far. They used the government to stick their nose into the business of the people beyond their authority. Regardless, and this is the most important part, it doesn't matter if they were right about it or not. It doesn't matter if they were right about it or not. Just like in our analogy here. There's absolutely nothing right about forcing people to do things. Regardless of whether you think it's for their own good or not. It doesn't matter how many flaming flying pianos might be falling off of buildings. Not the government's job. So, I will leave it there. Love to have you. Would love to have you to continue the training at the Florida Monkey Patreon channel. $1 single per month. Even less if you sign up for an entire year. Fully and completely refundable for 90 days. What is it now? June? July? Heck, it'll be almost Labor Day. Almost to Labor Day. We just celebrated Memorial Day. Almost the whole summer. You could browse the videos. Take a look at things. And if after that time you wanted your money back, you could still get it. I'll leave it there. Keep everyone in your prayers. Definitely a Patriot nurse. I know she's fighting the same war that we all are. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.